I'm a behind the scenes kind of guy, and I'm always intrigued about how things happen. And on this episode, we're going to be going behind the scenes, not of a process or a company this time, but of my journey, how it all started. I did not plan or set out to become an operations manager or an operations professional. Hi, welcome to today's episode of Unscripted. My name is Temidayo, and today I'll be sharing my story, how I ended up in operations. So, a quick backstory. I have a background in medical laboratory science, and unknown to me, even though I didn't know what operations meant at all, being a medical laboratory scientist placed me squarely in operations as a key operator. My job as a medical lab scientist aids diagnosis and patient treatment. Thus, it is vital for patient care delivery. And so, there are several players in that value chain. It's the early appreciation of this value chain that would eventually set me up to managing operations. Early on in my career as a medical laboratory scientist, I took a certification course, Six Sigma Yellow Belt. And when I took that course, I've always been intrigued about processes, process improvements, process implementation, how processes work actually, and also just finding effective ways to do things. And that led me to taking that certification course, right? And I remember after taking the course, walking up to my boss to tell him that, I just completed a certification in Yellow Belts Six Sigma. And I was like, oh, beautiful, well done. I said, yes, thank you, sir. So yes, I need to give me more responsibilities. And they told me, no, Tenda, you don't need more responsibilities. Go back to the bench where you are right now, and you begin to use the learnings that you've gained from the certification. Part of me felt slighted. However, I was able to also tell myself and borrow myself sense. It actually makes sense. Why not start from where you are, right? And begin to use the learnings from course that you just took. And so I went back to the bench and I began to see our processes and what we could do to make them better, shorter TAT, how we could reduce waste, how could we make our processes more cost effective. And I would go back to my boss, who is now a mentor, and then share those with him. Grateful for my boss at the time because he operated an open door policy. And, I would give him feedback, he would tweak some of those feedbacks and then roll them out. And I began to see how I could influence change and how implementation also happened. No long after this period, right? Of course, maybe about several months or a year after, an opportunity came to manage operations in a new location as the site operations manager, of course, which I took. I mentioned about the value chain in the healthcare space where I operated and how that it was my early appreciation that would eventually, make me thrive in operations. So yes, as the site operations manager, I had to coordinate scheduling, patient preparation, sample collection, accounts and billing, logistics, sample logistics, supply chain, quality assurance, laboratory testing, communication, crisis management. It was a lot, but it opened me to the real hard work behind operations. Many times all we just see is the end product, right? And you don't know that so many things had gone on in the background that made that happen. And in short, that's my journey. And of course, since then, I've worked in other organizations and I've held even bigger positions, and had big opportunities to even influence and lead. That was really critical for my journey in operations management. Things I learned from that experience in my journey so far is that one, tools matter, but people matter more. So in your work as an operations manager, you're working with people a lot. You would need people to implement, the changes you're bringing on board. You need people to comply. right? And so an early understanding of people management is critical. You must know how to work with people. You must know how to relate, communicate. Interpersonal relationship is very key. There are two things that I always keep in mind when dealing with people. First is not to be a people pleaser. I don't set out to please anybody, especially my friends, my paddies. I don't. In operations, you're going to ruffle feathers. You're going to have to make decisions that will not sit well with your guys. You're going to have to make the hard decisions pretty much. And so you must have an understanding that I'm on a job to get work done. This same mentor, said something that stayed with me for several years. He said that the job as a manager is not to be liked, it's to be respected. If at the cost of you being respected, you are now liked, oh, good for you. However, you may fool to jeopardize being respected because you wanted to be liked. The second is about people not using people. I always advocate that you do not objectify people. Don't make people feel like they are objects who are being used, like they are pawns in a chess game. Make people feel respected. Respect is reciprocal. You want to be respected by your team, you should respect them as well. And when you respect people, you will not use them. You will not see them as tools to achieve a goal or objective. You will see them as fellow collaborators. So you must see people as collaborators. You must see people as co-drivers. See, the person that you think is the least on your team is or has the least value in the chain in the value chain can mess up the entire process. So you don't want to make people feel terrible or feel used. Another thing I learned is that you don't have to look for a perfect system. In fact, the perfect system does not exist anywhere, right? Start from where you are. Have a a mentality for continuous improvement. I think that is actually what's more important. Continuous improvements over perfection. And one other thing I would like to share: when things go well, you it's not likely that you will be praised. Okay, but when things go wrong, you will be criticized. You will be critiqued. So you need to build a tough skin. You need to be able to man up. You need to be, and you need to put your ego aside. I learned very early in my career to separate myself from my work, such that when I do not do well on the job, I don't internalize it personally and say, Timidayo, you do not do well, you cannot do well. No, it was on the job. When I get a query, it was because of the job. It's not a reflection of okay. So that helped me with criticism, or encourage criticism. Take criticism, ask for it. It will make you better as a manager in operations. That is my story. It is still unfolding. I'm still very young and I'm still learning. But I hope that you've learned a thing or two from my story. Next week, we'll be looking at the key skills as an operations manager. Thank you for joining me on this episode. Let's keep building.